Hey there, this is Jen T. Grace, founder and CEO of Publish Your Purpose, and I'm here for a book launch interview with Prune Harris. Welcome, Prune. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Jen. Really excited to be here with you and everybody.
I am as well. And we were just kind of talking about your kind of headspace and mindset as it relates to the book coming out and conversations that you're having and feedback that you're already getting. So I am excited to kind of dive into this conversation with you. So can we just start by having you share a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your book?
Absolutely. Well, let's start with the book because that is by far the
Yes.
biggest excitement in my life right now. So, as you very well know, we have worked for actually for quite a short time, Jen, wasn't it? Like
Yeah.
amazing to turn this kind of chunky, quite big book around
So
in a
beautiful.
short amount of time. But your radiant soul, understand your energy to transform your world. And I love it. I love it. There's so many things about actually being able to hold the book that I've been working on for a few years now, hold it in my hand and feel all of its wisdom in it. So, and it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, we did it in color because one of the ways that I really want to bring forward is the way that I see the world. And I've been able to see energy since I was born. It's always been my normal. So, when I look at a human or an animal or a tree, anything, then I see that energy feels around and through that person or that being in whatever way they are. And they're always colorful. Like my world is a world of color and movement and dynamism. And I wanted to capture that in the book because I guess for me, my big understanding is that when people can understand their energy systems, understand that each of us is interconnected to every energy form in this amazing cosmos, then
Mhm.
actually we begin to change the narrative of our lives. We
Yeah.
realize that one, we can never be separate. We can never just be just Jen sitting there in her office, no interconnectivity with the world. Just Prune sitting here in my home, no interconnectivity with the world. It's not even possible.
Mm.
We're connected. This beautiful plant that I have beside me right now, if I was watching the interplay of energy between us, then it's extensive.
Mm.
Not just because the plant's a living being as well, and so am I, but that actually it's a plant that I love, that I've cared for, that I've tended. It's a plant that helps support my energy fields as well. So I'm in relationship with that plant energetically.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's a brief intro into my world and my book. And yeah, that's
So beautiful. So you said that ever since you were little, you can kind of see and feel, the energy. At what point did you realize that this is a gift and that you were able to do something with it and then actually make a career and a profession out of it?
well, I think all of life is a gift, isn't it? In any way we're experiencing it. What for me was the big learning was that perhaps not everybody saw energy the same way as me. And I kind of gradually learned that as I went through my childhood years. I had a very accepting, very loving family. So I kind of could say anything and they'd support me. I don't know if they thought some of what I was saying was a bit strange, but I was the last child of a very big family. And I think most of my parents' focus was on dealing with the older lot. And if I was running around saying I could see things or chat to people that maybe they couldn't see, then that was of absolutely no worry for them at all. But I also spent hours every day on my own with horses, with animals. I grew up on a small farm. And I believe it was that connectivity to the earth, to nature, to the animals that really helped me continue to connect in. Um, One of the stories I share in the book is that when I was born, I was one of twins and my twin died.
Mm.
And so that twin actually being in that spirit world we could use, or the land of the dead, or many, many different words across the cultures that we could use for that place of being non-physical in this world at this time. But she and I were still connected. We're twins. We're still
Mhm.
connected now. So we could always communicate. I spent as much time with her in that world as I did in the living world. And so I think that was very unique
Mm.
to my growing understandings. By the time I went off to university, I'd been ill for several years. I think living in that sort of half space, my physical body had been very compromised. And so I'd been ill for several years. I'd managed to understand that my energy systems at that point, and I didn't have that word for it. I wouldn't have used the word energy systems because it was just normal. You see your skin and you see whatever you see on your skin, and I see my skin and I see the energy patterns moving through it and on it, and the bits that maybe are a bit different because I got a bruise there, or um, an organ in my system isn't working in its fullness or beauty, or I'm really strained or stressed. So by the time I got to university, I still hadn't realized that other people didn't see the same as I did. And really, it wasn't until I started training in different healing modalities, shamanism, Reiki, touch for health kinesiology, Eden energy medicine, that through conversations with people who were learning about energy, I began to realize in very kind of tangible ways that, like, we're having quite different conversations here. I'm talking about things that are totally obvious and apparent to me, and most people are learning how to track them. And that was a really big beginning of learning. And then actually, it was a conversation with my husband when I was standing in the kitchen. I was 36 years old. I was standing in the kitchen and I saw a friend of my son's walking up the driveway. Now, we have a part of our energy anatomy that's called the assemblage point, and it sits just in front of our chest. And we can think of it as kind of the guiding light. It's a bit of soul light that comes from deep inside, radiates out, and it really guides us along our path. We know those times when we felt really in the flow, really connected, manifesting what we wish in the world, bringing it to us. That's because that assemblage point is in its vitality and vibrancy then. And we've also experienced those times when, whoa, we're flat, we're struggling, we're kind of climbing through our day in resistance and challenge. And at that times, the assemblage point will be somewhere a little different. So I was watching this little guy walking up our garden drive, and his soul light, his assemblage point's absolutely immense. And I turned to my husband and I said, wow, like, it's so cool how that little guy just shines so brightly, isn't it? And he said, I don't see energy. Now, this is a man I've been with for 16 years by that point. He said, I don't see energy. I said, yeah, I know, but you see that soul light. And he said, no. I said, but you see that soul light, you see that like shining light he follows. And he said, no. And it blew me away. Like, how could anybody not see that? It's so bright in every human. Right now, Jen, as I'm looking at yours with that green behind you and all of the black, that wow, like, it's super bright. You're fired up. You're living your life with passion and purpose.
Mhm.
You've even got it in the name of your company, publish your purpose. So, like, your soul light is guiding you forward exactly how it needs to for you to dance along your soul path in that place of real balance and purpose and joy. So, I mean, that's when I first really understood. Oh, I wanted to move more from private practice. I'd had a private practice then for a number of years, working with healing, but I wanted to move from that into far more teaching because I want to really get across that message that you are an exquisite, radiant soul every moment of every day. Your choice to engage with the energy systems that activate that vitality in your system is a choice that is so easy to make once you understand some of the ways that your energy anatomy supports you in your journey of becoming every second of every day.
Mm.
You can and interrupt me at any point, Jen. You can see once I get fired up talking, then I'm off. So feel free to talk me down.
You know what's funny is that as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm like, I feel like we're just friends having a conversation. And then also I feel like I'm watching one of your YouTube videos where I'm like, just please, I can't get enough of your information. So I don't want to interrupt because everything you say is just so profound and beautiful. And your energy is just beautiful to be in the presence of.
Well, thanks, Jen. And you know what? I really feel like, and I base my entire life and career on this. I feel that when we hear truth, when we feel truth, we know it. We know it at a level that our energy systems take in and use as a source or a fuel for so much of our healing, so much of our interconnection with it, with ourselves. So that's definitely, I try and live my life in truth. And does that mean I'm always radiant? No way. There's days I'm grumpy as anything. There's days I'm struggling. There's days I'm moving with grief. There's all of that's part of life, isn't it? But I do so much believe that when we show up in authenticity of ourselves, wow, we are all amazing, amazing human beings. And we can certainly make a big difference in the way that our world is currently operating. So those are the reasons and the passions behind writing this book.
Yeah, it's a great segue because I was going to ask you because it's your radiant soul, understand your energy to transform your world. I'm curious, and you already just started to slightly dip your toe into that direction of why was it now? Like, why is the time now for this book to be out in the world?
I think that's a brilliant question, and I've asked myself the same thing. I started writing it several years ago. I remember sitting in my kitchen in Canada, and I left Canada 11 years ago, and I tried to write it. And as I was writing, I thought I was going to start writing about the human energy system. And actually, the only thing I really tried to write about was the energy of the soul. And I just wasn't quite ready for it. I wasn't ready in my own evolution of consciousness. I could have written that book, but it would have been blimmin' complex. And energy isn't complex. It's really, really simple. It's beautiful and intricate and profound. But the 6 human energy systems, they know how to work. They know how to create that immense vitality in your system. They just get stuck in some glitchy kind of programs and patterns sometimes. So understanding how to do the tiny practices that can align more and more health and vitality. It's simple. And I found as I was writing that I couldn't hold that simplicity in my languaging. I couldn't ground it down in ways that I could really trust, that even the most cynical person could read it and hear some of the truth in it and be in some way touched or at least invited into curiosity, even if they didn't go further than that. And so I put that book to rest for a few years, and then I tried again, and it was the same thing. I still couldn't quite. I was more honed in my understandings and my level of consciousness, but I still couldn't quite get there. And then a few years ago, it just felt like now is the time. And I was so busy. I have a absolutely amazing community of people who all of us engaged in exploring how we can be more in our own health to bring global health. And so I was very busy teaching, very busy, but I just knew one winter, what it would be 4 years ago, that winter, I just thought, it's literally the words are trying to move through my whole body system. And I sat down to write, and a few months later I got up from writing. And also I need to give a shout out to the music of Pink, Lady Gaga, and Xavier Rudd, because pretty much the 3 of them wrote that book with me. I just had that music on as I wrote. And I do believe partly it was my own place of awareness of how to write this book, but also I think as far as collective consciousness goes, if that book had come out 10 years ago, I think it would have fallen flat, or it would have fallen into the fringes
Mhm.
Now it feels like actually, in the same way that 20 years ago, yoga was really fringe, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Mindfulness and yoga. I mean, you could find classes on them, but you couldn't so much chat to your mum or dad or your granny or your kid about them because they were very, very fringe understandings. While now, mindfulness, yoga,
Mhm.
Reiki, those levels of holistic consciousness are expanding every second at the moment. And it feels like, as far as trusting the timing of the book, then what the where the book can land and what together we can all create from that is really different now. So I always trust in timing, even when I can't make any logical sense of it. But this one, it feels like there's a logical sense as well.
I could not agree more for everything that you just said. I think if it had come out even 5 years ago, I don't think it would have the same level of impact that I think it will have, has already had, and will continue to have now. So I think that's fantastic. And I know that, the book is about understanding, understanding your energy. And there are some people who will read the book and they'll be like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I needed. Now I know what I'm trying to do. I'm going to go off and do it. And then there's going to be others who need that extra support. And I know that you have so much curriculum. Your YouTube channel in and of itself is a treasure trove of amazing content and information. But I also know that you were really intentional about putting together kind of that next baby step for somebody that you're doing next week. So do you want to talk about the energy essentials a little bit?
Yeah, fabulous. And thanks for saying that about my YouTube channel. You know, I love that channel because I remember, ooh, I want to say 10 years ago, maybe 8, but maybe 9, but I think it was 10, cycling my bike with my family along a little pathway near here. And I'd had this feeling that I wanted to do just a very simple energy practice exercise. Um, and put it up on YouTube. But I was a bit like, I'm a bit nervous, hadn't done anything like that before. And we were cycling along. It was about this time of year. And I suddenly said to my husband, all right, let's stop, let's do it. And I stood there and I did, a few minutes of an energy practice. And I put it up on YouTube right there and then while I was still sitting in the middle of this field. But I always knew that that kind of vehicle, a public channel where I could really begin to just support other people putting that kind of information in and let it spread out into the world. So I love that channel. I love it for what it brings forward. So yeah, we've got what I've tried to do. I know I know that you know what a B Corp's all about. You guys are B Corps as well. With the B Corp ethos as a business, I mean, the reason that we here at PH Limited really move towards aligning with the B Corp movement is because it absolutely married with where we are already at in our ethos, which for me is about empowering people to be the change that the world so needs. And I energetically, there are 3 vibrations that are always constant. One is the physical, yeah, we might call that the body. One is the energetic or the level of the emotional cognitional, we might call that the mind, and the other is the soul. And those 3 vibrations are present in every moment, in any situation.
Mhm.
And when I was looking at what I wanted to create, I wanted all 3 of those levels to move through my curriculum at any point. And there's so many questions, even like, what is energy? Okay, this woman from England says she can see energy. That's awesome. But what is energy? What does it mean? I remember sitting with a friend on a sofa not so long ago, 2, 3 years ago. And he said, so what is it that you really do? And I said, well, I teach about consciousness. And he said, what is consciousness? The question blew me away. Because I'm like, that is a brilliant question. What is consciousness? For me, your energy fields are fields of consciousness. But
Mhm.
I recognize that that's not necessarily a mainstream perspective yet.
Yeah.
So in the in the movement, how to support people, how to get that understanding about energy anatomy, how to make it mainstream. Yes, I've got a lot of free offerings. So YouTube, my website, the blogs, the images. I've worked with illustrators now for a couple of years to create some absolutely beautiful images to show you what your energy systems look like. And then next week, I've got a free webinar on Tuesday and on Thursday to really go over these energy essentials, to begin to explore, wow, what does it mean? What are your 6 energy systems? How do they work? How do they actually create you in your amazing fullness and support your radiant soul energy going out into your day, your life, the world in general? So next week I have that. And then couple of weeks after that, I actually begin the Radiant Soul program. So it's very much bringing out the essence of information in the book. It's a 6-week program, bringing out the essence of that information to be able to land more fully the concepts of energy anatomy. And I love that course because we're really exploring the profound connection between the vagus nerve, one of your extraordinary channels called the vital vessel, which is actually the very first point of creation in the human energy system, your assemblage point, and another system as well, which has gone from my mind. Yeah, we're
So
going
say
to.
it'll come to you.
It will. It will. I've got too excited about the course. I'm suddenly, ooh, but it's working with that sacred access of the soul path. How we take all of these amazing different layers of energetic experiences and information. Energy is just information, just coded information. That's all it is. How we take it, how our ancestral fields hold codes of information and help us move through our life. Oh, there is so much that we can talk about, but that's why I have courses, because it's a bit much for one interview. And all of that leads towards my really beautiful supported and signature course, which is the Alchemy of Intuition. And I love that course. The concept of alchemy being that you take those kind of more mundane or base parts of your life, your experiences, the parts that bog us down, the parts that we know most of us can fully identify the old patterns that we engage in, but it's a different thing identifying them and actually creating the alchemic situations within our energy fields to really dissolve and bring that into that biggest health and vitality.
There's so much here, so much here. And what I want to acknowledge is folks who are watching this, they could be people who are fans of yours, they're fans of PYPs. Who knows what that kind of point of kind of entry is. But what I do know is a lot of people who are watching this are watching because they're aspiring authors themselves. And what I just want to call out is just the brilliant structure that you and your team have, where everything just seamlessly and beautifully transitions from one thing into another. Because I spend a lot of my time talking to aspiring authors and saying, if we are going for maximum impact, which is always what the goal is, right? And so in your case, the goal is to get more people to understand their energy so they can transform their world in the rest of the world, right? Because there's a lot of challenges that are happening these days. And the more people who are attuned to these things, the more we can all kind of elevate, right? Rising tide floats all boats. And what I think is really beautiful is that you have just a beautiful system where it flows from the book into something that's tangible and accessible to people, which is your energy essentials webinar, which then they have an opportunity to go into another program, or if someone doesn't have the means or resources, you have so much free content that's available for people. So it's this very beautiful balance that I spend a lot of my time explaining to others to kind of drive them to get to that same place, and to just see yours happen what feels like so effortlessly. And I know that that is not true, right? You have a really amazing team behind you
Mm.
that helps make this magic happen. But I just wanted to acknowledge that because you really are such a beautiful example of this. And I want to be able to point other authors back to this conversation to say, see how Prune is doing it, because it shows that your intention and the place that you were coming from is just wrapped with such love and care for getting your information out to people in whatever means that they can access it. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that because it's really beautiful to see. And I've said this to you, I said this to you before we went live. I picked up on this when we had our first conversation before we even decided we were going to work together. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that because it really does take a village to create something so structured, but yet so free flowing at the same time.
Well, thanks, Jen. I could not do what I'm doing and aspiring to do even more without the amazing, amazing women and men who are supporting my work. And really, I call it my work, but there's a little bit of it. The languaging around energy is my work, but I really feel and see it as our work. You know, there's the level of joy and commitment to actually be part of bringing a big impact into the world definitely transcends it, anything from being my book or my work. There's a big place of our in all of that. And also, yeah, it might seem seamless and effortless, but my goodness, it takes effort. And we're very lucky in that we had already, as a team, we have a big vision, a very, very big vision. And we have amazing vision on strategy and how to get there. So the book also, we are a spirit-led organization. Anything we do is from that place of, does this serve what's needed right now? Um, and so the book had its own purpose and mission just in that question, in that alignment. But actually, it also had a bigger strategic purpose and vision within the organization, within the body of my work. I was chatting to one of my beautiful friends today, and I said to him, I said, we kind of talked about, we just had the book launch party on Friday, and I said, we talked about the birthing party of the book and kind of like, this is my child out there now. But I said, that's not how it feels. It feels like one of my best friends is walking this world. One of my best friends is out there now, just being a little support or a little inspiration or a little companion to other people. And all of those books, all of those thousands, all of those words, hundreds of thousands, all of the visuals, they can all just support someone wherever that person is in their life, wherever. And that's a really beautiful, just to know that I have a friend out there doing that. It feels absolutely amazing. And I really want to credit you and Bailey and your brilliant team for guiding and helping and just being that supportive friend to me while I was going through that process, because it's a really big process, isn't it? And also, sometimes you make it sound far too easy. You're like, oh, you just fill in this worksheet and you just do this and you just do that. And then we'd be working on it like, this is really hard. So, I mean, your guidance to make it an easy process was definitely really a key to the creation of it as well.
Yeah, thank you for saying that because and I love that you're referring to it as a best friend versus your kind of book baby, which a lot of people because there is a big distinction between it being something that you birth versus something that kind of has its own life outside of you, its own personality, its own spirit, and it didn't come directly from you, even though, there's so much. And I think this is the beautiful thing about books is that you have hundreds of videos, you have hundreds of thousands of word of content and courses and everything that people could possibly access. And yet there's something so beautiful and tangible about a physical book and being able to hold that physical book and someone walk through that evolution and that journey with you from having a little bit of knowledge about something to having all of this knowledge that they can actually execute on and do something with. And so I love that, as you mentioned before, both of us being B Corps and knowing that our values align on such a cellular level in so many ways because becoming a B Corp is such a production and process, as you and I both know, but
Mm.
yet there's something to be said when you're already living those values, and it's just a matter of kind of having a container to put those values in. But what I love the most is that being a partner with you in having this book, it's a co-creation. It's clearly all you, but just to be a little piece of that behind the scenes with you, because now this best friend of ours lives in the world beside us, along us, and beyond us, which is such a beautiful thing, that long after you and I are both gone, the book will still be doing what it's out there intended to do. And that's what I love so much about books, is there's a legacy component to them that no one can ever take away. And I think that is such a beautiful thing, and especially in the context of what you have written about specifically.
I love that, and I love your passion about it. That is why you are awesome at what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, I have enjoyed this so much. I have been waiting for this launch day for a while. I am
Mm.
very excited, and I know that the book is already out there rocking and rolling and doing a number of great things. So I'm going to just drop in your website for folks, so that way anyone who's watching this and you want to check out anything that Prune is up to, I feel like your website is very simple, pruneharris.com. You can also find information about Prune on the PYP website if you've somehow forgotten the URL. And I am a big fan of promoting bookshop.org, which
Mhm.
is also a certified B Corp. So this would be a real trifecta if you purchased Prune's book directly from bookshop.org, which has a mission to give back to local independent bookstores, especially in areas where you might not have a local independent bookstore. So that is always our preference. So wherever you are in the world, go to your local bookstore, ask for Prune's book. They can order it for you, or go to bookshop. And then of course it is available on the places like Waterstones, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, all of those bigger corporations as well. But however you would like to engage with the book, we are in full favor of and really appreciate your support. And Prune, are there any final words you have to say?
Hmm. I feel just immense gratitude, and I think that's probably the perfect place to end. Gratitude for yourselves, gratitude for the book, gratitude for the team, and yeah, I feel pretty radiant about this book getting out there. So thank you so
That is
much.
a perfect word for it. Yes, thank you, Prune. And for everyone watching, I will be back at a future date and time to talk to another author that they are releasing their book. But please, in the meantime, do what you can to support Prune and this book launch. So thank you, Prune. I will talk to